everybody and ask everybody, please, to mute your microphones if you are not speaking to us, and then unmute when you speak. And so today, let me take this opportunity now to welcome our speaker, Joseph. Please proceed. And after his presentation, we'll ask people for questions and comments and sharing of experience. You are welcome, Joseph.
Thank you so much. I just want to double check again. You guys can hear me properly, right? Okay, thank you so much. Greetings, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to all of you. So, okay, I just want to say something before I begin. There's a lot of words in here, so I'm going to be doing some reading and then I explain. I just want you guys so that we move together properly, right? Okay, cool. So, sowing seeds of peace through the arts, right? Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. I would like to start by reading the abstract that I wrote so that it can shape the conversation. Yes, I want us to move in that flavor. Can we please go to the next slide? Okay. The human being is a fascinating existence because in a human being, you get to see or experience a word, a concept, or an idea literally being alive. Human beings can and do embody words and concepts and ideas. And if peace has a home, it lives in the hearts of every living organism on this earth that can feel, with humans at the top of that list because of the comparative. The seed of peace is understanding. One who possesses the ability to understand a thing through only their own perspective, but that of the other, is in a better position to come up with a solution favorable for all. Understanding, however, is a product of the nurture of one's mind. Human beings are governed by their minds, and knowing this presents an opportunity for development towards peace. We all love music and movies and reading books and looking at art, regardless of genre. Imagine a Hollywood dedicated to the nurturing of human minds to better understand each other, to foster peace. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so when I was writing this chapter, my approach was I wanted to come at it from the most basic place I could come at it from. And so I thought, what could be more basic than an Oxford definition of peace, right? And so according to the Oxford Dictionary, peace is the freedom from anxiety, disturbance, emotional, mental, or spiritual, or inner conflict. It is a state of calm and tranquility. Next slide, please. Okay, so, all right, the human race is a complex assortment of a multitude of unique individual units of intelligence, each with a will of its own and an inherent ability to define for itself what can induce that calmness and tranquility. So basically, every human being is a complete unit of intelligence that can speak for itself. So this is just to say that it's impossible for one human being to dictate what is acceptable to the other, minus inquiry, into whoever it is you're trying to prescribe that whatever it is for. In this world of ours, we really do have every opportunity to see how one man's meat is another man's poison, and at the same time, witness the marvels of completely different human beings coming together, finding a balance that can bridge the gap between their differences and result in a beautiful harmony. Now, so because of all of our differences, we have every opportunity to we have every opportunity for good or bad. And the conflicts that we're all aware of, they show us how our differences have led us towards the bad, right? And the beauty of we see harmony when, you know, people from different walks of life come together and do one thing together, like pour all of themselves, and then that's when we get to experience something we're not used to, because we're usually looking to build with people who are like us, who look like us, you know, and because it's I guess we're not trusting people who are different from us by default. You know? Every one of us is looking for that same thing, peace. In a CBC interview in 1970, Jim Morrison said, "The spectator is a dying animal," right? So this was about 50 years ago. He said the spectator is a dying animal. What does that mean? It means, you know, we're used to there being people who actually we're used to there being superstars, and then we're used to there being fans. What he's saying is that actually, one thing we haven't been noticing is that everybody wants to be a superstar. Everybody wants to contribute. Everybody wants to be seen for what they can do. You know, it's like we're not just satisfied being fans anymore. We also want to create. We like the same way we've been seeing, you know, people creating and fascinating us. Yes. So now with the advent of social media, that's where now we're seeing this phenomenon, what Jim Morrison was talking about. Because if you look at all of our pages, we're all sharing our thoughts. We're all sharing our art. We're all singing songs. We're acting. We're playing out skits. So everybody wants to get in on this thing that fascinates every human being, which is art. Right? Next slide, please. A baby is born, the journey of every human being, right? Okay. I like to state the obvious for emphasis. So a baby comes into this world, and its first ally is its mother, right? And then the second ally ideally should be the father, and then whatever siblings it finds will be allies 3, 4, and 5, etc. So essentially, from the moment a baby comes into this world, the phenomenon of allies, you know, is thrust upon it, right? So the mother, the father, and the siblings become its first teachers as far as interacting with this world and making your way in this world, right? When the baby plays alone with its toys and playthings, it plays out what it sees in its world. If the baby sees peace and harmony, it plays that out as that is the impression being formed within, right? And if the baby sees violence and discord, it plays that out indiscriminately too, because it doesn't yet know right from wrong. And then I quoted a verse from Proverbs 22, verse 6. "Train up a child in the way he must go, and he will never depart from it." So essentially, human beings, those units of intelligence that can govern itself that I talked about in the abstract, right? This is what we're talking about. So it's like essentially, this is the role now played by the parents early on in the life of the kid, because you're essentially setting this human being on a path of life, literally. So depending on what you've presented it, that's going to be what it's going to take and express into the world when the baby does finally go out into the world. Next slide, please. So the baby, back. The one before that. Previous slide, please. So the baby we just talked about is you and me, right? Apart from Adam and Eve, depending on which origin story you choose to believe, no person has ever come out of their mother's womb already grown up, knowing right from wrong, and ready to be a responsible human being. Even the greatest minds we have ever had on earth, from Einstein to Socrates, even Jesus and Enoch, who supposedly walked with God until he was simply no more, these people came into this world first as babies. If we all share the same Genesis, and we do, these exceptional ones have shown some marvelous heights to which the human mind and heart can soar. The answer to reaching the best potential for any human must be nurture, and that of the mind. Every one of us ought to mind our own minds. And Ralph Waldo Emerson is quoted to have said, "Nobody can bring you peace but yourself." Learning is the, so from this, right? As humans, we all share this genesis. Like we always share a similar beginning. I mean, the circumstances can be different, but fundamentally what we go through in life is the same, right? And so I like to look at outstanding human beings as lights, as torches for the rest of humanity. I don't think they are exceptional to be exclusively exceptional. I think they are exceptional to show us what we can do too if we try. You know what I mean? So like Einstein, he was exceptional in his own field, so that he was basically just there as proof that whoever wants to be like that in that field, it's possible. You know what I mean? Jesus is the same way too. Most of his conversation, in fact, was to tell human beings how he is the way he is, you know? And so I say, learning is the evidence that you are getting better at using your mind. So this phrase, what I mean by this is that, so from being a kid, you know, trying many things in life, there's some things that you try and fail. But as you keep succeeding from your trials and failures and stuff and improving, that now is proof that this thing that you have inside you, that's governing you, that is your mind, is actually improving. Next slide, please. So what's the main idea? If you can lead one human being to find peace successfully, that human being will never seek to solve any of their problems through violence. Okay, so now I want to give you guys an account of how I avoided violence once through dialogue. And this has happened like 3 times. The last time was I think like 3 weeks ago or something. So I'll just talk about one instance. So what happened was I was in an ATM waiting to cash out to get some cash from the ATM, and there was a guy standing in front of me. He was bigger than me. He was really big, right? So that's the guy who I'm talking about. So the mall that I live next to, there's people who there's beggars. Okay, there's people who, you know, who are unfortunate in life, right? Who beg, who come to beg. So some of them, I know them. So this one guy who I was familiar with came to the queue to ask the people for some money. And on this day, he chose not to come to me. So it was cool. He came to the guy in front of me. And so I could hear the conversation. I wasn't really eavesdropping, but I was close, so I could hear. And so he was speaking really low, asking this guy for some money. Then this guy he spoke out loud, you know, and started joking about it. And, you know, some people in the queue were laughing. And so I'm watching everything as it's happening. You know, he kept on, you know, saying the joke. And so now this guy, the guy who was asking for money, was shy. So now he wasn't sure if he was going to be given money, but now he just had to sit there and wait. hoping he would get the cash. So it was very uncomfortable for him. People were laughing. It was a whole conversation. And so he tapped the guy in front of him to like share the joke. And then that guy laughed too, So he was getting the laughs he wanted. Then he turned around to me and he wanted to include me in the joke too. And then so he talked to me, and then I told him, yeah, but it doesn't mean that you should make fun of him. And so when he saw that I wasn't agreeable, that's when he started saying that I had a problem if he was just joking around and all that. Then I asked him, I was like, so are you saying I didn't see what I just saw? Because I was witnessing everything. You're telling me I didn't see, because I'm talking about what I saw, And then, so it became a whole argument, and he was getting angry, agitated. And then he when I saw that, because I was always aware that this is a big guy, I don't want him to get too angry, but he, so he kept on trying to antagonize me, because at some point I noticed now he was just embarrassed. I didn't agree with him, and he was looking for me to say something wrong so he could hit me. And I didn't give him that opportunity. And so the good thing also is that the witnesses, so I didn't want to fight. He actually wanted to hit me. He was talking about hitting me because he was really embarrassed now. I told him, dude, do you see how small I am? I'm not trying to fight with anybody, and that actually is what deflated him. And then he left. And then I was scared, but I had to stand my ground. So, and this is not, so I've been in like several situations like this, where just because I'm not agreeable in a certain way and somebody's embarrassed, now they want to resort to violence. And I'm like, no, and then I always think about how to, and that's because violence is never viable, it's never an option, doesn't make sense for a solution for me. So that's just an example. Next slide, please. Peace as a living entity. I'll say again, I like to state the obvious, for emphasis. Peace is real, and the evidence of that is everyone's search for it. We all know what it tastes like. Unfortunately, however, it isn't tangible or readily identifiable just by looking at appearances. Remember also that in a human being, you will find the embodiment of a word, in this case, peace. So it's like, if you're looking for peace, you have to see it in human beings. Yeah, you have to see it in the humans of a place. Like, before you say there is peace in this place, peace lives inside the human heart, it's a understanding entity. So if you want to check for peace, you want to consult the understanding entities in any environment, and they're gonna inform you if there is peace or not in that space. Next slide, please. So in my chapter, I give scenarios, like 3 scenarios. I'll just talk about them real quick. The first one involves a father, a mother, and a child. So imagine you walk into this room, and you find the father, mother, and child, right? And from the moment you enter, they turn around and greet you with smiles. So you think, okay, everything is good, because everybody's smiling at you. But now the longer you sit with them, you notice the child's smile has faded, and now it's been replaced by a dejected demeanor. The mother is barely even trying to smile anymore. And the only one who's really trying to show you any kind of happiness is the father. And then, the longer you sit with them, you're talking to everyone. And then you ask the kid if something is wrong, and then like she like her eyes light up, like she wants to tell you something. And then the father interjects and says, oh, she's all right. She just needs some ice cream, right, sweetie? Then he says, go and get some in the fridge. Then she leaves, not in an excited way, because we assume kids love ice cream. She should have left running, to eat that. So it's like, at first glance, when you get to the place, and you see the smiles, it's easy to think there's peace here. But the longer you sit with the humans in that place, you can tell that something's wrong, but you can't tell what it is. So that's now how peace is a living entity and how it's seen in the humans who are supposed to embody it, if they're embodying it or not. The second scenario involves a mother and a son. So you go into this other room, right? And you find a mother scolding her son, right? She's angry, kid is scared, looking down. When you come in, he looks up, doesn't even smile at you, but greets you, and you're like, man, there's no peace here. You know what I mean? But then now that you're there, as you hear the last bits of the conversation before the mother sends the kid away, and then the mother is ending the conversation with, I'm disappointed that you did that thing, especially after we talked about it, but I'm glad you told me about it and I didn't have to find out for myself. That's honorable. And so I forgive you, And then she even tells the kid that, go take a bath and we're having your favorite thing for dinner. And then the kid is like, yo, but didn't I, am I not in trouble? And then, even the kid even shows some, regret at speaking the words, because it's like, I'm about to get my favorite dish, but I just reminded her that she's mad at me, so he's like, I might not get it anymore. And then the mother explains to the kid that, no. I already said I forgive you, right? So I hold nothing against you. And you came and you told me for this. That's honorable. I like that, So it's like, it becomes education too. So at first you thought there was no peace when you came and you found angry mother, sad, you're like, there's no peace here. But then later on, you can conclude that there actually is peace in this household. The disturbance you found at first was just because a mistake had been made. Some rules that had been established were violated. And so the mother, being a mother, was chastising the offspring, to set him right. And so you can say that there's peace there. Then the third scenario is let's say you get invited to a country by a president called President Frankincense, right? Frankincense. And he's the president of the Republic of Myrrh, right? The capital city is gold. And so this guy, you're being honored for some amazing work you've done. And he's saying, come to my country. It's a peaceful country, okay? He says it's a peaceful country. And then, so you go to the country. When you get there, from the airport, you're escorted by police. These guys are friendly, everything is good, So you remark that these police are really good. They are really, it's just a thing you remark to yourself, right? Then as you're staying in that country, you can walk in the capital city, right? You're walking down the street, you see some kids playing, and then you see some cops approaching, and then the kids stop playing. Like they cease all playful activity, and then, they're just waiting now for the cops to pass by. And the cops are walking slowly, they're just sauntering by, not even caring, that the kids were playing and, and all that. And you can see, so you can kind of see the tension too, you can see the tension as all this is happening. So you start to read, and then you see that nobody's saying anything. It seems slightly oppressive. And then you remember what the president told you about the peace in his country. He said, they are a peaceful nation because they've never had war. They've never been involved in any conflicts, domestic or international. And because of his recent police reforms, he managed to secure the peace perfectly. That's what President Frank told you. So as you're now seeing what's happening on the ground, that's when you realize that President Frankincense is defining silence as peace. That country is not a peaceful nation, it's just a silent one. It's been intimidated into silence. You know what I mean? So that's just from peace as a living entity. Like you're always going to see it in the people of the place, if it is there or not. Next slide, please. Now, what is the seed of peace? King Solomon said, above all else, get understanding. That's Proverbs 4 verse 7. At a time when he had to deliberate between two prostitutes and a single live baby, he could not rely on a DNA test, as is easy for us to do today. You know, the story is in 1 Kings 3:16 to 28. And what did understanding teach him about the situation? So I'm hoping we all know who King Solomon was, right? Isn't it, the story goes that the two prostitutes, they gave birth around the same time, they had babies. And so one of them at night, I think they lived in the same place. So one of them at night smothered her baby and killed him, right? And then when she noticed he was dead, she switched the babies in the morning. And then that other mother found a dead baby. She's like, nah, this is not my baby. So all the women were saying, yo, it's my baby, it's my baby. And King Solomon had to decide, right? What did understanding teach him? So what I got from that story was Solomon simulated in his mind. He basically came up with a solution. His solution was, you know what? Since you guys are all complaining, I'm going to get rid of this thing you're complaining about, okay? So that everything can be cool. And then now, so Solomon listened to the responses of both women. One woman said, yes, it's only fair that you kill the child so that we are both childless, you know, because we're all claiming the kid, right? But the other woman said, yo, if your solution is to kill the baby, let the other woman have the baby. I don't mind not having the kid as long as the kid is alive, you know? And so Solomon basically, he kind of like, so we heard both responses. He had to put him now feet of both women to see where each response was coming from. And it only made sense that the real mother of the kid would want more than to have the kid for the kid to be alive. You know what I mean? The mother of the dead kid would be cool with the other kid dying because hers is dead anyway, and she's grieving that loss, you know? So that's the seed of peace. So it's that understanding. So it's like, because Solomon had that understanding, he was able to come up with a solution that was favorable for everybody, even the lady who was cool with the kid being killed, because in actuality, she was trying to have an innocent baby killed because she had killed her own baby. You know, next slide, please. Sowing the seed of understanding through the arts, right? So now, from what we've been talking about, we know that the seed in a peaceful heart is an understanding mind, and further, that understanding is a result of the wielder being able to see a situation through the eyes of another as well as through their own. The next thing we need is a way to impart this kind of vision into the minds of many, and we will have bountiful harvests of peace to look forward to. One thing we all on this planet have in common is that we love art. We love movies, cartoons, music, poetry, beautiful buildings, lovely landscapes. We are lovers of art in all its different shapes and sizes, wherever we find it. Simple. Create art that fosters and nurtures the mind of a person to incline towards peace. Now, this is that idea of, imagine a Hollywood that is dedicated to giving you entertainment that is also helping you understand somebody who's different than you. Do you get it? And I think it was in one of these talks, somebody asked a question, why does violence happen? I had an answer, I thought about an answer later. I think violence happens because of ignorance, because somebody is ignorant, because the truth is, non-violence takes creativity. It's like if there's a problem, for me to be able to find a solution that is satisfactory to both of us, it really does take creativity of mind. You know what I mean? To see things differently. Anyway, now let's move on to the next slide, please. I'll come back to that part. Jim Morrison said again, what you hear the most is what you like the most. Fondness is built through frequency of exposure. If we can properly master the creation of art that can educate the right way while it fascinates simultaneously, and an education that is unique to fostering peace, we can look forward to an unprecedented time of peace that we have thus far only been able to dream about. Because what I've realized with the advent of social media, we are witnessing this in bits and pieces, you know, because people are creating all kinds of content, right, on these platforms. There's those people who have the ability to make people feel really good inside, you know, really good, which is akin to the peace, you know, just from what they create, how they do it, you know. Some content has healing properties, you know. Imagine there existing such a place that dedicated all the art it created to foster that understanding among us that we don't have. The reason conflict still exists for peace. Conflicts usually arise when people cannot overcome their differences because they do not yet understand each other. You know, it's kind of like, I love anime. I love cartoons and stuff. And through anime, I know a bit, just like a bit about, you know, the Asian culture. You know what I mean? And in my own little place, little space, I have a healthy curiosity about Asian people. You know, I'm not looking to go and destroy their stuff. You know what I mean? That's just an example. So that's like because it's really so easy of understanding the arts. It speaks to a certain level of creation, a certain quality, you know, a certain level of quality of content, where it's literally developmental and not detrimental. Because, you know, I think about some movies, like especially of the horror genre, and I'm like, this is really, we can do without this in the world. You know what I mean? This idea, we don't need it in the world. So that's just one example. Next slide, please. Thank you for listening. So that's the end. So basically, just to wrap it all up, what I've realized, you know, when I was thinking about how do we solve peace non-violently, the solution is you want to make human beings not want to commit violence. And then that's where creativity is going to come. It's like, hey, I'm not trying to be violent. And then all kinds of other solutions in any scenario will now present themselves that are not violent in nature. You know, because the truth is, just people don't notice themselves violent on small scales and think they will be able to not be violent when it matters. You know what I mean? It's like somebody killing animals and, you know, just being cruel to animals and stuff like that, and then saying they would be a good president. Like they wouldn't push the nuclear button or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. So these are things. These are red flags that we miss down here on the ground, and then by the time the person is a president, it's usually like too late for us to change them. So yeah, thank you guys for listening, and I'm ready for comments and questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Joseph, for this inspiring talk. And so we've learned, I think, a lot from your presentation, increasing our understanding about how to live in peace and with non-violence, and through creativity, through the art. The art is also teaching us something. But now, before I proceed, may I take this opportunity now to ask participants for comments or questions, and some maybe have a similar experience, so they would like to share with that. I can see Hannah Muze. Hannah, please, welcome.
Thank you, George. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So thank you, Joseph, if I for your presentation. You mentioned something that I really had never thought about. I mean, in one of as in your presentation, one of your slides, you mentioned something about silence and about whether silence, in most cases, is something that is often misconstrued, you know. So it may be taken to mean silence means peace, but then does silence in itself actually, you know, mean peace? And I think in law, usually silence construes consent, or it may construe, you know, the opposite. Sorry, my English has disappeared. But I mean, that is something that I thought about, and I was looking at, for example, in Africa, in our present day societies, where you have in authoritarian governments, where you see, presidents, for example, that have, stayed in power for a very long time. And of course, you see the democracy in those countries, being violated, the democratic principles being violated. And of course, you seem to think that, okay, but the people are quiet. Why are people being quiet for this long? They may be quiet because they think they may accept the rule, but they may also be quiet because it's a sign of defiance, also to whatever is going on. And then also when you talk about the arts, and I think it's something that's very important. In Uganda, I've been following, for example, Dr. Stella Nyanzi, who has faced, a big brunt of, the regime, the brutality of the regime. And she's right now in exile. And the way in which she speaks against, social injustice through her poetry, it is quite captivating in a way that would not have actually been expressed in a normal, academic article, so to say, or even a journalistic article, or even a blog. But, it is something that really captures the moment, and it incites, emotions, within people. And I think it's one of the reasons why, the arts to a certain extent are also fought and tried to, are swatted, are being, stifled, by authoritarian governments, because they realize that they have the potential, to cause change, actually cause change. Well, that was my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that comment. I love what you said about inciting emotions. Oh my God, that was so relevant. Thank you so much for that. Yes, because I actually feel like learning happens when emotions are excited. Because it's kind of like if you're not excited about a thing that you're being taught, and you're just looking at it like this, how much of it is getting in? You know what I mean? So I love art's ability to incite, to excite the emotions, because that's once you're doing that, then now if you know the right thing to put in, there's space for you to teach somebody really, really well. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I can see in the chat box, there's about Max Weber. Or maybe we'll come back to that later, but I can see Janet. Janet, please, could you proceed?
Yes, thank you, George. And thank you, Joseph, for your wide-ranging presentation. I think you're an organic intellectual and you learn from everything that comes up. It comes, you put the filter of peace on it and look to try to pull out what's in there. And so I wonder, I appreciate your presentation also, because I'm working on writing something about experiential learning, which I think is what happens with the arts too, both as the expressive person, the person expressing, and the rest of us as what you call spectators or fans. And so I'm wondering what your experience of the arts is, if you have personal experience, or why did you choose this topic? How is it meaningful to you from your experience?
Oh, thank you so much for the question, and thank you for the compliment. Oh my God, thank you so much. I'm an artist. Like I'm an artist. I do different kinds of art. I write poetry. I do illustrative art. I do fine art. I do music as well. I'm learning guitar. So I'm very expressive across multiple mediums, I guess. And so I think, I guess from walking those different paths, I've seen so many different things and things that are the same too. And I guess over time, I allowed those things to like pour into me and teach me. And so I usually speak from everything that I have seen. Yeah, so thank you once again for your comment and compliment.
Thank you very much. May I now turn to Lester, and then I'll go to Ronald. Les, please. You also mentioned something about Max Weber. Probably would like to expound on that. Thank you very much, Les.
Sorry, I'm sorry to bring too much sociology into this great discussion of art. But that's really a really important message that you brought to us, Joseph, and I appreciate it. I have a back burner project. Sometimes I call it the aesthetics of resistance, or the aesthetics of peace, because I think that the role of art and music and the arts in general are really important here. And the sort of theoretical reason for that, I think Max Weber has expressed very well. He says there are four motivations, four things that motivate humans to act. And the first is instrumental rationality. You're calculating the means and ends. It's kind of rational calculation of what's the most effective. And the second is value rationality. That is, what's the moral, what's the right thing to do? But the third thing is the affective. And that's the emotions. You're talking about, you and Hannah talking about inciting the emotions. And the fourth is tradition. And so all four of these things are really addressed by the arts. And sometimes when we make these rational, we do our studies, we write our articles, which a tiny number of people read, they don't have the same impact sometimes for peace, which is where we're all trying to go anyway. Sometimes the artist is more effective. When I have a class on global social thought, and when we turn to African social thought, there's some great scholarship, but I also have the students read Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, because I think you get there's incredible sociology in that novel, right? And you kind of crawl inside the village where Okonkwo is living, and you get a sense of what's happened when the Europeans arrive and how things fall apart in a way that you wouldn't from just a straightforward, rational economic statement, rational statement of the facts by some boring scholar like me.
Thank you very much, Les. Of course, you are not boring at all. John, would you like to respond, say anything about it?
Oh yes, actually, just to add on what Les was saying, one thing that excited me about the the simulation presentation we had some weeks ago. I've forgotten who was presenting. Someone was presenting on simulation. So what I loved was that experiential aspect of the simulation. So it's like you're really providing a controlled environment where people can experience the thing that they are deliberating on. You know what I mean? So when they even decide, those decisions will be clearer because you're really from inside of the thing. You've seen what it's like. You know what I mean? So thank you for that comment.
Now, please, Ronald, could you ask your question or make a comment? Thank you. Hello, Ronald, we can't hear you, please. Sorry, Ronald, we can't hear you.
We can't.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we can't hear you. So probably also you can't hear us. I hope we'll be able to solve that problem. And I don't see another hand. Somebody, was it Hannah? Are you still there? Hannah Muse?
Yes, I'm here, but it was an old hand though.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but there's something I wanted to ask you because you mentioned Stella Nyanzi. Probably some people don't know who she is and probably what's the context, if you could elaborate on that.
And the spelling for the name, please. I was trying to write it down so I could look her up.
Okay, so it's Nyanzi. It's I think it's N-Y-A-N-Z-I. Oh, Z-I,
Okay.
right?
Thanks.
Stella. Yeah. So Dr. Stella Nyanzi is an anthropologist. Yes, and she's an academic from Uganda. She was once a lecturer at Makerere University, and yes, unfortunately, due to politics and other political factors, she left the university, and she right now is living in exile in Germany. She has publicly spoken about social injustice against the current regime in Uganda, and she has done this basically through poetry, which is quite vivid. Her poetry is quite vivid. That's how I could explain it. And to many think that it is offensive, but she uses it to actually express, the kind of decadence that is going on in society, and to express the corruption, with the current regime. Because some think that her poetry is offensive. She has actually served a prison term in Uganda, and as a result of her poetry, she has actually published some of her poetry into two books. One of the books is, I think, No Roses from My Mouth, right? But she also has, like Lester said, like rational academic. I mean, she's an academic, and she also has, written, peer-reviewed journals. But then again, recently she's begun to express herself more through, poetry, and it's interesting to see how her poetry, what kind of emotions her poetry actually incites, both among the masses and among those who she speaks against, to the extent that they actually want to they view it as offensive and even prosecute her, you know, for speaking out against, you know, injustices. And even then, there's also during the previous elections, the newest political opposition party, Bobby Wine, I think, who may be familiar with, Robert, you know, Chagulanyi, who's a musician now turned politician, and he also uses music to speak against, you know, injustices in society, and to speak against, you know, what is going wrong with the government. And there was a time where one of his songs was literally being banned, you know, from being played on the airwaves and in radio and all, because, you know, authoritarian governments, in a sense, are aware of what the arts can actually do, because it speaks vividly to what people are actually going through. It speaks to people's predicament. People can easily relate to it because you use everyday language, you use everyday examples that people can actually relate, you know, with. And I think that is, and I think this has happened not even now, it's something that has been ongoing, where, you know, various authors, both fictional and non-fictional, had their works banned in Europe, you know, had their works banned only to turn up centuries later, you know, because the you know, autocratic governments at the time believed their work to be detrimental to their, you know, to their reign. And I think, yes, I mean, your chapter actually speaks to that and the importance of that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Hannah. And Joe, would you like to say something about her explanation?
Oh yeah, no, actually, I enjoyed really listening to it. In fact, yeah, because I think, I really just from listening to everything you've been saying and how that artist was getting in trouble for art, right? And communicating through art. I'm seeing that really art is untapped territory. It's unexplored. Like I think we've only explored it for money for the most part, and we haven't seen what else art can do. Yes, I think we've only come to art. We've been coming at art for the longest time with a one-track mind, and not seeing what else it can do. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much indeed, Joe. Ronald, are you able to hear us? And can you speak to us? Maybe you can do without your headphones, and maybe we can hear you. If you can remove them and plug, please. Unplug so that you speak more naturally. But we can see your question actually in the chat box. You said something about, it's disappearing here, but about setting up a lab to nurture knowledge, you know, and this kind of, you know, this information you're sharing with us, this presentation, so that we have a lab in Africa. That's Ronald's idea, and I hope I can find it in the chat box somewhere.
That sounds like a good idea. I want to hear it.
Right. Maybe when he's able to join us, then he can explain that. But now I can see Donna Pido, please. Can you hear us, Donna Pido?
Yes, but I don't. You know, I'm using a very strange computer. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear. It's really very nice.
Oh,
you know, the quality is perfect. Thank you.
May I just say that I hate Macintosh computers, and I'll never get adjusted to it. But I wanted to make a comment that it's completely off the topic. Joseph, you used the word prostitute to describe the two mothers. Their occupation and their indulgence in commercial sex work was not relevant to the story. And yet it disturbs people, particularly females, to hear other people, particularly females, labeled as prostitutes. And I want to call attention to this entire webinar of a division that is articulated in Islam, and that is the division of the world into Dar al-Harb and Dar al-Salam, the abode of war and the abode of peace. And when you used the descriptor prostitute for those two mothers, you were speaking from Dar al-Harb. And I'm not criticizing you, I'm not putting you down. I just would like us all to be aware that whatever ideas we have, and yours are marvelous, I must say, that we have to consider what we're saying and what we're actually talking about. And so I want to bring up the subject of Dar al-Salam and Dar al-Harb and suggest to people that we consult our Muslim chaplains in our respective universities and or Wikipedia and consider how peace is disrupted by simple words and usages that we are not even aware of when we're doing it. I won't say any more. I don't know if anybody heard that. I'm going to lower my hand. Okay, bye.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Donna Pido, for this, should I say, caution, because to remind us the being also correct in the balance. And yes, so
I would like to
maybe, please,
I'd like
Joe.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you for that contribution, Donna. Actually, even like personally, in trying to be peaceful, to live peaceably with everyone, right? I live as honestly as possible. But so I've stepped on many toes, right? So when I do step on a toe, it's very important to me that the one who's hurt speak up, because that's when I learn, you know, because I do love those two phrases. I'm not gonna repeat them because I didn't hear them properly. But the one with Dar al-Salam and the other one, yes, I love that, because I feel like, especially in this conversation, like where we're headed, where we're trying to go, I think that's an important thing to keep always in mind. You know what I'm saying? Because really, violence starts from small things. And those small things can be as small as neglecting something in your speech that you could correct. You know what I'm saying? And never step on those toes. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for saying that, Joseph. I can put the spellings of those two terms into the chat, but my chat seems not to be working. And I appreciate your candor in recognizing. I don't even want to call it a mistake. Anyway, but if I can get into chat, I can spell. Everybody knows the spelling of Dar al-Salam because of the city, and Dar al-Harb is just H-A-R-B, the door or the abode of war or chaos. Harb. Haribu is the word in Swahili, to spoil or ruin something. That's an imposition of non-peace. It's the abode of peace and the abode. And when we say harb is war or chaos, it means non-peace. It's both of those things. And if we harm somebody, we're haribuing. Just like I did with the pancakes for my husband's breakfast the other day. We have to have a sense of humor. By the way, laughter brings peace.
That's part of art. Thank you very much indeed, Donna Pido. And Ronald, are you able to hear us? No, you still have a problem. We can't hear you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I can see also, yeah, William is there watching from Dar es Salaam. And all right. I'm just looking for something in the chat. Please, could you, Shulika, Janet, please.
Okay, I don't want to talk too much, but and at the same time, I was very, because I went from being a dancer and a choreographer and a producer of arts functions to the university, where I had to sit still and keep my feet on the floor and my hands folded and just talk every now and then. I think, how did I do that? How could I get a doctorate after just being a dancer? And I think because in dance, I learned so many things: how to work, how to learn other people's movement, how to move in unison, how to be expressive, how to keep learning. Where, as you know, okay, so I danced from the age of 3 to the age of 50. And so I kept learning all that time as my body, was getting better, and then my body was getting worse. And so there were things I learned more and more to do, and then less and less to, I have to now try to adapt for an old lady's movement. And so I think there's so many things to learn from the arts. That's point one. And so I love Ronald's idea of a lab to study these things. I'd like to write about that more. And the second thing is, you might be very interested in Augusto Boal, a Brazilian theater director, activist, who developed Theater of the Oppressed. And in New York City, we had Theater of the Oppressed Laboratory. Top Lab, Theater of the Oppressed Laboratory at the Brecht Forum. And it involves movement, sound, and making plays out of scenes and episodes. Like you could make a simulation from your scene of standing at the bank, where there's the antagonist, the aggressor, the protagonist, the person he first comes up to, and then you as a bystander, and how to consider those roles and how to play, or he uses the word, you used another word, but to use the word dynamize. You dynamize the scene, and everyone watching is also a spectator, reflecting, and then even stepping into the roles of the three characters of the scene. So you might, I'll type it in the chat. You might be very interested in his work. Okay.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Sounds interesting. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Ronald typed an interesting question in the chat. Somebody please read it for me. I can't access it properly.
Sorry, whose question?
The question says, how can we build a unique language through art? And I think it's for Janet.
Chat. How can we build A unitive peace language through art. Ooh, so I just saw Ronald's question. He's saying a unitive language through the art, right? Ronald, a unitive peace language through the art, through the arts? Unitive, right? So a language that can unite us through the arts. How do we create it, right? Yes, I love that question. I love that question because I actually love what Janet was just talking about, you know, as she was talking about dance, and then she was talking about everything she learned, you know, as she was doing dance, and she learned how to learn people's movements and how to work with people and stuff like that. You see, it's like what she was learning in dance is what humans need to learn at a certain scale. You know what I mean? I guess it's like dance becomes the conversation. So, okay, back to Ronald's question, a unitive language. I think the first thing you want for language to be successful, there has to be agreement just on certain things, like certain elements of what the language, of certain sounds. We have to agree on that and stuff like that. So it's a possible thing. It's gonna take us coming together and working together consistently over time, because we have to now dictate the aspects of that language together. You get, it's just going to take us coming up with aspects of it and then agreeing on them, on what they mean, right? And then, so we haven't even started creating that language. We don't even know what it looks like, but those are the things we have to put in place first. And then I love that you brought that up, because that language can literally do whatever we want it to. As we are creating it, we also decide what it's going to achieve. You know what I mean? And then that, what we wanted to achieve is also going to guide the process of us creating that language. Yeah. I hope I make sense.
Perfect. Thumbs up. I can see Ronald. Actually, one of the languages used is the Dar es Salaam, as Donna Peters told us. You know, that we go through the language, you know, that is more uniting people than dividing them. Is Donna Peters' hand that a new one, please? Donna Peters?
I didn't intend to put my hand up, but since you've called on me, I will say, let's also keep in mind that Dar es Salaam, the now capital of Tanzania, was a depot for the slave trade, the Indian Ocean slave trade in the 17 and 1800s, and that's how it got its start as a city. So there's a little bit of a contradiction there. You don't call the place where you're selling slaves the abode of peace.
Wow, very interesting.
Sorry
Thank you
about
for that.
I wouldn't have thought of that if it hadn't come up. Okay. Okay, bye.
Thank you for that contribution. It fascinates me.
I'm trying to lower my hand, but it's not working. I'm just going to mute. I should shut up.
Thank you very much indeed.
I am unable to lift my hand, but Donna, perhaps you can get your hand. Judges, I am allowed to speak?
Of course you are. You're welcome, Egon.
Thank you very,
Please.
Thank you very much. Back to the question for language. My idea is that artists are narrators. They are telling a story, not by verbs and by words, but also by words, but very often by paintings, and Janet explained by dancing and so on. So actually all artists, from my perspective, are narrators, and we are all a community of narrators. and artists especially are community of narrators. That's the speciality is that the people, they are looking, they are watching, listening, see the paintings. They are free to interpret them. And though we are a community of narrators, or artists are a community of narrators, and a publicum, can I say so? And they are free to interpret the arts, and the narrators are ready to accept the interpretations of all of the different interpretations. And this is a kind of language to give a story via paintings, via poems, and so on, and to let the people free to interpret this story. So this is, I think, it's really a kind of language to deal with the stories and to accept that the others are free to interpret it like they want to do it. So ready.
Oh, may I speak? May I say something?
Yes,
I just
please.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that, Egon. I love, as you were speaking about, artists being narrators and speaking, what flashed in my mind? That verse where Jesus says, "You are the light of the world." So I'm thinking artists are literally the light, for the consumers of that art. Because as per your narration, it's like artists become like guides. It's like they are people who know what's happening, and so they present, they create, put together a message, and then that message, as the onlooker is deciphering it, they are being guided to what the artist is speaking about. So I like that. Thank you for that contribution.
Thank you very much, everyone. And Ronald, now you are trying again. Probably you can be heard. Would you like to say something? Okay, then I will invite Louisa, please. If you could share with us, maybe you've got a question or comment to make, and welcome to the webinar, because I tell that you are joining us today for the first time, and of course several others. So wonderful to have you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, George, and hello, everyone. This is a very interesting piece. I've been recently listening to a series called The Relational Brain by Terence Real, who is a national bestseller and also a psychotherapist, and Julianne Shore, a PhD and neurologist student. And when you were talking about language that still needs to be created through the arts, I'd like to say that I believe that the language is already created. It is an unspoken language. It's the language of this inner knowing and mutual understanding that's generated by parts of the brain, the chemicals of oxytocin and serotonin, those chemicals that help us feel happy. And this creates a happiness in all of us that we share. And when these parts of the brain are ignited, it opens the space for compassion. And with this compassion, the space for listening and understanding is also created. So in essence, it is already a silent language that we already share, this inner knowing of this connection between all of us human beings. So I just wanted to make that comment. And so thank you so much for your presentation today.
Thank you for that comment. Thank you for mentioning those chemicals. you know, the chemicals, those chemicals for our emotions.
Yes.
Because and from what you're saying, I'm understanding that we are slowly understanding that language that has always existed. Do you know what I mean? Like each time, like we're understanding a bit of it, like just a little bit, you know, the more we develop as human beings. So thank you so much for that. I love it.
Sure. Thank you, Joe. Yes.
Thank you very much indeed, Janet, Louisa, sorry, for your comments. And I'm looking for another hand or a question maybe in the chat. No, I don't see anything.
Deeting said something interesting. She said, to me, everyone has the potential to be an artist, like P-seed is within each one of us. I like that. As I think about human beings, I really do believe we all have even just genius capacity, because each and every one of us can exhibit a remarkable trait that everyone else can agree is remarkable. You know, in different instances, like the people who we call geniuses are the ones who now just reproduce those traits more consistently than the rest of us. But they're not the ones who exclusively exhibit those traits. Every human being does. So I love that contribution, because really it's like as we become more compassionate. I love that compassion thing that Louisa was talking about when she mentioned compassion. As we become more compassionate, we actually increase the space for more humans to become as exceptional as we are too. So I just wanted to say that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. There is a question here, Joseph. How do you wish to ask from us? It's a question from, I can't tell, but how do you wish to develop this thinking, acting further? What would you ask from us? A nice question.
I love that question. I think it's from Janet. Actually, the thing I was thinking, just from after writing this chapter and everything, I'm curious when the next book is, and I really would like to be able to explore more. Let's see, what would I ask of I just, because one thing I've seen is from talking to different people, everyone has an aspect of this that you haven't checked. You know what I mean? And so that shows me that I feel like if more of us have in on this conversation, and if we can even listen, if we have a book just on peace, my God, that would be an amazing project to be a part of too. But I really just want more of us to be involved in this topic and explore it, because I love even the contributions, like especially from things that I didn't consider. Those are so valuable. I feel like they're so valuable too. Be a part of the conversation, expand it some more. Yeah, really go, because even as I was exploring some of these ideas, I could see that there were some aspects that were maybe in expert territory that I didn't have access to. So it's like I would like to have more like access to experts, like in things like, especially with child psychology. I loved the whole, when I was exploring the baby. So like, I would love to speak to somebody who's an expert in that field to see what else we can learn as far as art and babies. Because I feel like us, when we're grown, we can learn so much from babies, you know? Yeah. So yeah.
Right, there is a nice question here. You know, is there any African art, you know, like paintings connected to peace or war, just as we have a number there in particularly Europe, Picasso's painting of peace, Dove, and etc. So in Africa, some of these artifacts that you know of, Joseph?
None. I'm just gonna be honest, and that's not to say they don't exist. And I haven't even looked. So I know none. But that actually, I find that very exciting too. Like to now just, because listen, I didn't know Picasso's stuff was related to peace. See, now I'm actually going to do that research to see, and then whatever I find there, I'm gonna learn to see how I can do it in my own.
The webinar that I always miss. Today I've tuned in, but I.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Joseph. And as I can see, we are about to conclude our webinar for today. So I'd like to, there was a hand somewhere, or maybe, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody for participating in this webinar. I'd like particularly to thank Joseph for this wonderful, moving presentation. Please, next time we invite you, don't hesitate to join us. We'd like to learn more from you, as we have learned actually in the past through other speakers. And I'm happy to see actually some of the speakers for next week and the following weeks. Some of them are here. Of course, I can see Janet is here. Of course, Louisa is there, and Hannah. And so please just feel free to, of course, Bruno is also, I know he's also preparing one for us. So all amazing. Thank you very much. You're all very generous. And for those who have just joined us today, please join us again every Wednesday. And as Joseph asked about books, we have actually one in the press, and we hope that will be out soon. And for some of the authors, please be patient with us. And we issued a call for chapters for another book, a handbook on peace studies. And this one is actually special because it is based on presentations made here in our webinars. So a presentation such as the one we have had today, would like to have it included. Okay, so please, Joseph, think about it. And we've got a deadline for this, which is the 31st of July, all right? So, of course, I think also for those who haven't presented, but they can present later to us, they're also welcome to share chapters with us. It's actually a smaller piece because it's about just 10 pages, right? So, on that note, and I'm tempted to ask Egon, because sometimes I feel Egon has this wonderful words always. So if you want to say something, Egon, please. Okay, so we will proceed. Thank you very much indeed. And we thank also our colleagues in Argentina who are actually helping us to be live through the social media. Thank you very much. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Bye. Thank you so much. Hey. All right.
Thank you, Joseph.